We couldn't get enough of Grandma's dishes growing up. It wasn't just the large portions or the love you could taste in every bite. It was all the evergreen recipes she had on hand that you couldn't see anywhere else. Today we'll be spending an hour looking at recipes Grandma just couldn't do without. 1. Chicken and dumpling.
Today we are going to make chicken and dumpling casserole.
What better way to start out than with chicken and dumplings? This classic 20th century dish was some of the best comfort food the era had to offer. It had ingredients that were easy to get, it was pretty easy to make, and it was super tasty. This dish had southern origins, but in its heyday it was pretty much beloved everywhere, from the deep south to the Midwest. No one can really agree about its origins. Some people think it probably originated as a French-Canadian meal that became popular during the Great Depression. Others think chicken and dumplings came from the South instead, born during the antebellum era, and then it gradually grew into a mainstay during the harsh economic times of the early 20th century. One of the earliest versions of the recipe was cornmeal dumplings cooked with turnip greens, but today we'll be giving the refined version of this dish with a classic twist. To start out with, season the chicken with salt and pepper and sear it in olive oil. Set aside and let rest for 10 minutes, then dice it and set aside. Melt some butter in the same pot and then scoop out the remnants of the meat from the bottom of the pot. That way you have a lot of meaty flavor to pack into the broth. Next, add onions, carrots, and celery. Stir it and let it combine. Let it saute for 5 minutes and then add some minced garlic, hot sauce, Worcestershire sauce, and seasoning. Cook it for another minute. Then add in a little flour and let it cook for 2 minutes. Next, add in your chicken broth and your half and half, then your frozen peas. Then once your dumpling dough is ready, add your chicken back to the pot and stir the whole mixture. Then, finally add the dumpling dough to the soup and let the whole thing simmer for about 15 minutes. Insert a toothpick to make sure the dumplings are set, then garnish with parsley and serve. Up next, we'll be looking at another meaty treat, although it was more of a fast food staple. 2 meatloaf burgers.
But look, y'all, this is what we're making on Friday. We're gonna make us a meatloaf burger, okay?
Meatloaf burgers were the point where hearty comfort food met fast food, the point where homemade dishes met convenience treats. They were pretty popular back in the 60s and 70s, where people were looking for nutritious dishes that you could also pack for when you were on the go. The only catch was it needed quite a bit of ingredients, and making it could be a bit of a chore, but once you did, the effort was pretty worth it. To start with, put some oats, some milk, an egg, a dash of ketchup, mustard, paprika, and kosher salt in a bowl. Stir it till the egg completely mixes in and the whole thing turns a pale purple. Then the mixture sit for half an hour. In the meantime, chop a carrot, a shallot, grate some Parmesan cheese, add it to the oat mixture and stir the whole thing. After that, add ground beef to the mixture, season it with some kosher salt, and leave it to refrigerate for at least 4 hours. Then bring the mixture out and let it sit for a few minutes and slice some mushrooms into it. Here's where the fun begins. Divide the meat mixture into patties and sear them in a skillet for about 5 minutes on both sides. Finally, put your mushrooms in a pan and sear it for about 5 minutes. Now, everything's done, and all you need to do is serve each patty on some lettuce or in a hamburger bun topped with the mushrooms and anything else you'd like to add to it. Sure, meatloaf burgers were great, but if you liked your meals with some seafood flavor, you might want to take a look at our next dish. 3. Taco salad.
Learn how to make a restaurant quality taco salad, and it's so fun to do a taco party.
Of course, we're back to the South with this one. This mid-century twist on probably one of the most iconic Tex-Mex dishes of all time reached its heyday back in the 70s before disappearing from dinner tables almost just as quickly. But the lack of attention the dish gets these days has nothing to do with its quality, and your grandma can probably attest to that. So how do we make it? Start out by cooking some beef in beans, dressing, and a mix of seasonings to your taste. Crush up some taco chips, put them in a bowl, top it up with some lettuce, cheese, and tomatoes, add that too into the meat mixture, then finish it off with some dressing. Depending on what you're into, there are quite a few dressings you could try. There's the classic dressing that's just a mix of sour cream and salsa, avocado dressing, chipotle ranch dressing, and of course some trusty creamy garlic dressing. And of course, for the people who want to put Italian cuisine into the mix, you could enjoy it with some cilantro lime dressing or Catalina dressing. Taco salad is a pretty great treat to enjoy on its own, but when you take it as a side to the dishes you'd normally take with tacos, the flavor goes up 1,000 times. Next up on the list is another mid-century classic. 4. Tater tot casserole.
Of cozy comfort food, then you've got to try my tater tot casserole. It's an explosion of flavor.
The tater tot casserole is probably one of the most mid-20th century American dishes ever made. Just think about it. It perfectly combined the era's obsession with casseroles with the public's evergreen love for crunchy snacks. And of course, it wasn't the only attempt to create that type of dish of the time, but if you're going to try any of those recipes, this one is pretty high up there. Here's how to make it. Start by cooking and stirring some ground beef in a hot skillet for about 10 minutes minutes till it gets totally brown and crumbly. Then you stir it in some condensed soup and season it with some salt and black pepper. Next, transfer the beef mixture to a baking dish. Layer some tater tots evenly on top of it and sprinkle some cheddar cheese on top of it. And finally, bake the whole thing in an oven for about half an hour till the tater tots get golden brown. Tater tot casseroles were a pretty major craze back in the 60s and the 70s, especially in the Midwest. But sadly, it would fall out of grace with the public in later decades as people became more health conscious and their tastes shifted. But if you're looking for a simple, tasty dish to enjoy every now and then you definitely should try it out. Our next dish was the definition of homemade goodness. 5. Chicken pot pie.
Today on Preppy Kitchen, we're making a chicken pot pie.
Chicken pot pie is another delicacy born from the proud 20th century American tradition of borrowing sumptuous comfort food recipes from foreign cuisines, in this case, English cuisine. In this case, chicken pot pie traces its origins back to the medieval period when it first became popular to put meat and vegetables in a pastry crust to make pies. The formula refined itself over time, and by the 18th century, chicken pot pie had become pretty popular in England. By the time it finally reached the shores of America, the locals adjusted the recipe a bit to suit local ingredients and tastes, and then it quickly became the beloved comfort food we know and love today. Chicken pot pie was at its most popular in the mid-20th century and often became the dish of choice for home-cooked meals and family gatherings. It was cherished for being a hearty and satisfying dish, perfect for warming you up and lifting your spirits in cold weather. While its popularity has dipped over time, that doesn't mean it isn't still a classic comfort food enjoyed by many. To cook it, you first need to make the filling with melted butter and chopped onions, carrots and celery with some flour. Next, you add in some chicken broth, some milk, and throw in the cooked chicken along with the seasoning. Prepare the pie crust, fill it with the sauce you've prepared, and bake it all until the crust is golden brown and the filling is bubbly. In all, it, like the next meal on our list, was a pretty mouth-watering dish for those times. 6. Cobb salad.
And today I'm going to show you how to make your new favorite salad. We're making a chicken Cobb salad. It is loaded with all of the best ingredients.
Cobb salad was the definition of old-timey fine dining. It was hearty, nourishing, incredibly tasty, and most of all, super easy to make. We don't really know how the salad came to be, but a lot of people believe the Cobb salad was invented in 1937 by Robert Howard Cobb, the co-owner of the Brown Derby restaurant in Hollywood. According to the story, Cobb created the first Cobb salad at the end of a long day after realizing he hadn't eaten for a while. After searching through the entire kitchen for something to eat, he found an avocado, lettuce, tomatoes, bacon, and celery. But for the modern recipe, chicken, hard-boiled egg, chives, watercress, and Roquefort cheese were later added to the Brown Derby's Cobb salads. If you're wondering about how to whip up a plate of a few of all its goodness, here's how you go about it. Boil, peel, and chop some eggs, cook, drain, and crumble the bacon, assemble the salad, and lastly sprinkle the salad with some dressing before serving it up. This was a treat that wouldn't be out of place at a dinner party and a picnic, much like our next dish. 7. Crab cakes.
Some easy, delicious crab cakes. So let's get started.
What do you get when you merge snack time with some crustacean goodness? Well, you get crab cakes. These bite-sized, tasty treats were everywhere back in the 60s and 70s, and people just couldn't stay away from it. What wasn't to love about it? It tasted great, was easy to make, and you could pack some to take on the go. Plus, there are a lot of ways to make it, so you could adjust it to meet your preferences. Crab cakes most likely originated from Native American cuisine, specifically from the Chesapeake region. History suggests that crab cakes were one of the first indigenous dishes adopted by the settlers. By the time we got to the 20th century, Maryland, Virginia, and other areas in the East were the part of the U.S. that the crabs were coming from, and crab meat was mostly being eaten over there. It took the popularity of refrigerated trains to transport the crab meat across the country and introduce the rest of the country to some crabby goodness. Here's how we make it. Start by whisking egg, mayonnaise, green onions, lemon juice, tarragon, and pepper flakes together in a bowl. Gently mix some crab meat into it, but be careful so you don't break it up. Form the mixture into patties and then cook them for about 5 to 6 minutes till they are golden brown, and they are ready to serve. Our next treat is probably what you think of when you think about a classic breakfast. 8. Grilled peanut butter and jelly sandwich.
This is how to make a grilled peanut butter and jelly sandwich.
You probably couldn't think of a simpler breakfast option if you tried. Grilled peanut butter and jelly sandwich was another one of those cases where less was truly more. It's not hard to see why PB&J sandwiches are the incredibly beloved classic dish that they are. This treat was the point where convenience met nutrition, the point where great taste met easy cooking. There's nothing wrong with the classic too, but the whole grilling process locks in all the goodness and makes it easier to pack on the go. Here's how you make it. It's something you can do in 10 minutes max. Start by spreading butter on one side of each slice of bread and then spreading jelly on the unbuttered side of one slice of bread before spreading peanut butter on the other unbuttered side. Place bread slices together so peanut butter and jelly are in the middle, and then cook the whole thing for about 4 minutes on each side till all the sandwiches are golden brown and heated through. If grilled PB&Js were the perfect picture for easy breakfasts, then our next dish fully captured the essence of hearty homemade dinners. 9. Ham and cheese quiche. If you're a fan of quiches, you definitely know just how much of a gem this particular dish is. Of course, all quiches are amazing. They are versatile, so easy to make, and great for using up leftovers. But even then, only very few of them can come close to ham and cheese quiche. It's the perfect way for you to put some of that leftover ham that's been lying around to good use. You can make it with a variety of ingredients depending on your tastes, and every single one is still guaranteed to come out great. It keeps pretty well, and it's something you can take on the go. And of course, you'll be making Grandma happy by finally trying out one of those dishes she's been raving about. Here's how you make it. Start by baking the crust for about 10 minutes. You could use some pre-made pie crust if you're trying to save time. Then cook some onions in butter till they're soft and let them cool. Whisk eggs, half and half, and season them. Add some diced ham, Swiss, and cheddar into the picture. Then pour the whole mixture into your crust and bake it for a few minutes on a sheet pan. What you get is some sensational comfort food. Talking about sensational, we don't sing the praises of this next dish enough. 10. Jambalaya.
Well, friends, another fabulous recipe, chicken jambalaya à la Jean-Pierre. You're gonna love this.
Jambalaya was and still continues to be a pretty big deal in the southeast United States, most notably Louisiana. This classic dish was a generational favorite for its great taste, generous portions, and rich flavor. Jambalaya is also pretty versatile, so it can be easily adapted to make use of whatever ingredients happen to be lying around. Like a lot of dishes from back then, we don't really know much about the origins of the dish. People have tried to link it to the origins of the word, with a common theory claiming that the word jambalaya was actually a combination of the French word jambon, meaning ham, was mixed with the African word aya, meaning rice. There's no way to know if that's the case or not, but it's part of why people believe the dish originated from slaves in Louisiana. On the flip side, here's how to make it. Start by sautéing the chicken and sausage for a few minutes till the sausage is slightly browned and the chicken is fully cooked through. Set the whole thing aside, and then get to sautéing some onions, bell peppers, celery, jalapeno, and garlic till the whole thing gets soft. When you've got that down, add in uncooked rice, chicken stock, crushed tomatoes, Cajun Creole seasoning, thyme, cayenne, bay leaf. Give everything a good stir and leave it to cook for about half an hour. Just be careful to stir the mixture every 5 minutes till the rice is tender so it doesn't burn. After half an hour is up, add some okra and shrimp and let it cook for about 5 minutes before adding the chicken and sausage back in. Then finally, season the jambalaya to your taste and it's ready to chow down on. Our next dish was a little more unusual than jambalaya, but it was just as much of a good time. 11. Macaroni and cheese with tuna.
Hi guys, today I'll show you how to make a quick and easy dinner, tuna mac and cheese.
Macaroni and cheese with tuna was a fishy treat on a classic dish. It was a popular go-to back in the good old days for people who wanted some extra heartiness on the cheesy staple. Like the best dishes, it was tasty while being super easy to make, and like most of Grandma's favorites, it was a classic dish with a slight twist that took it from great to amazing. So here's how you make it. Start by putting water in a saucepan, seasoning it with salt to flavor the noodles, and leaving it to boil over medium-high heat. When the water boils, add in your box of dry noodles and some frozen peas and corn. Then, let everything cook for about 7 minutes till the noodles are soft and then drain the water. Next, open the can of tuna, drain it, and then add it to the pan of cooked noodles and veggies. Stir in the butter, milk, and dry cheese packet. Make sure you add enough of it that the dish is warm and creamy, and that's about it. Your macaroni and cheese with tuna is ready to enjoy. If you love macaroni and cheese with tuna as much as we think you will, you'll definitely love this next tuna. 12. Tuna salad.
You guys are gonna love this Tuscan tuna salad that is light and healthy and layered with fresh Italian flavor.
Tuna salad became a comfort food classic pretty much right from the moment it made its way into dinner tables across the country, and rightfully so. The beauty of the dish is how simple it is to make and how amazing it tastes. At its core, it was just flaky canned tuna mixed with mayonnaise and sometimes a touch of diced celery or pickles for crunch. Usually it was served on some lettuce or between 2 slices of bread, offering a taste taste of seafood at holidays and potlucks. Tuna salad earned its place in Grandma's recipe book for several reasons. It was a pretty affordable meal, was easy to prepare in large quantities, and it was packed with protein. As another plus, it was a pretty efficient way to use government surplus canned tuna. Back in those days, before peanut allergies grew widespread, tuna salad was a great alternative for people who didn't really enjoy peanut butter and jelly. Whipping up this fishy favorite was straightforward. Cooks would mix canned tuna with mayonnaise, add diced vegetables for texture, and perhaps a squirt of lemon juice for extra zing. Some cooks that wanted to put a creative spin even served it stuffed in hollowed-out tomatoes for a gourmet touch. People back then fell in love with tuna salad for its familiar flavor and versatility. It could be eaten with a fork or in sandwich form, adapting to different preferences. Much like tuna salad brought a bit of seafood flair to lunch tables across the country, our next treat brought some sweet goodness to otherwise boring cuisine. 13. Spam sandwich.
Hey guys, thanks for stopping in. Today I'm going to try out some turkey spam for the first time. So I'm going to find a couple fresh tomatoes here so I can make a sandwich with it.
It was hard times back in World War II. It was a struggle to get good food, and the usual protein options were scarce. This created the perfect climate for Spam to save the day upon its launch in 1937. It was cheap, super convenient to store, and easy to cook. It quickly became the most available source of protein and the only source of protein for many households, so they started to use it in everything. The one recipe that naturally caught on the most of them all was the Spam sandwich. It was everything working people back then were looking for in a meal. Healthy, cost-effective food that was easy to make. All that you needed was some grilled Spam and a slice of cheese topped off with some mustard or mayo, served on a slice of toast, and you were good to go. Spam sandwich was everything it needed to be for the era it was made for. After the hardship of the post-war years ended, though, and meat stopped being scarce, the once invaluable lifeline quickly outlived its usefulness. But it's still a heavy feature on the rotations of many people who grew up around those times, and probably your grandma, so if you're thinking of trying it out, you're not alone. Creamy dishes were the hallmark of cuisine back then, and this next dish wasn't any different. 14. Macaroni coleslaw.
Today I'm going to be showing you how to make this delicious homemade creamy coleslaw. So easy, it can be made in 5 minutes.
Macaroni coleslaw tastes like a warm scoop of home, and that's despite the fact that it's typically served cold. This pasta salad is used pretty much like all other types of coleslaw, often served as a side dish to barbecue, fried chicken, or other picnic-style dishes. It was a favorite in its heyday, and the reason why isn't a mystery. First, it brings the best of two incredibly beloved side dishes together, guaranteeing it will be a hit at any gathering. Coleslaw and macaroni salads have stood the test of time. They are pretty much inescapable side dishes in American cuisine, especially in the South. Macaroni coleslaw is just a natural progression of that deeply embedded Southern tradition of comfort food. It brings these two separate worlds together to give you something bigger than the sum of its parts, with the hearty satisfaction from the pasta and the lightly crunchy and refreshing creamy flavor from the coleslaw. Plus, it doesn't just keep well, it tastes even better after being refrigerated for a few hours. The recipe is pretty to tweak, and it can be made with your favorite vegetables or added protein, such as shredded chicken or tuna. This dish travels very well and doesn't have to be heated, making it perfect for potlucks. Here's how it's made. Cook the macaroni in a pot of boiling water for a few minutes, drain it, and then immediately rinse it with cold water to stop the cooking. Let it cool, and then set it aside. As the macaroni is cooling, cut the cabbage and carrot and chop up celery, onion, and bell pepper. Then it's time to get to the dressing. In a small bowl, whisk together mayonnaise, apple cider vinegar, sugar, Dijon mustard, salt, pepper, and celery seed. After that's done, place the cooled macaroni, shredded cabbage, carrot, celery, onion, and bell pepper. Pour in the dressing and toss it till everything is coated evenly. Next, cover it with plastic wrap and leave it to refrigerate for at least 2 hours to meld flavors. After that, it's basically ready to serve. But before serving, stir the macaroni and then sprinkle in some chopped fresh parsley for color and freshness. To top it off, sprinkle some sunflower seeds or toasted almonds on top to give it a little crunch. Next up is another cheesy masterpiece, 15 cheese crisp.
What's up, Nibblers? You're gonna love this recipe. Every time I bring a batch of homemade cheese crisps over to a party, they're the first to go.
A classic cheese crisp was everyone's go-to snack in the Midwest back in the 70s and 80s. You could get at just about any restaurant. For its lovers in its hometown of Arizona, it was basically the perfect meal. Let quote S get into how you make a classic cheese crisp. Butter up some flour tortilla all the way and lightly bake it for about 6 minutes. Remove the tortilla from the oven, sprinkle with cheddar cheese, and put it back in to cook for about 2 more minutes till all of the cheese melts. Then remove it from the oven and enjoy it with any dipping sauce you like. You could serve it with pico, salsa, or guacamole, but you could also take it with some extra cheese, of course. 16. Ham salad.
Today on the Stay at Home Chef, I'm showing you how to make classic ham salad. It's a classic American recipe. You can serve it up as a dip, you can serve it up on sandwiches or on a lettuce leaf. No matter how you swing it, you'll love this simple recipe. It's also really good for leftover ham as well.
Very few comfort treats come close to this lunchtime classic. Ham salad has been a beloved comfort food staple for generations, perfect for a quick, tasty treat. This savory salad first took off with the public in the 1950s and 60s as the perfect way to use up leftover ham, particularly to save food before and after holiday meals. It was such a top choice in its heyday for its versatility and delicious flavor, and even these days it continues to remain a permanent feature in many grandmothers' recipe collections. To make some old-school ham salad, start by cooking up some ham and finely chopping it up, or pulsing it in a food processor until it reaches the desired consistency. Then dip it in some mayonnaise, a touch of mustard, and any additional ingredients like finely diced celery, pickle relish, or minced onion, and then mix it all together till it properly combines. Then season it up to taste with salt, pepper, and perhaps a dash of paprika or garlic powder. It's optional, but you could throw a bit of cream cheese into the mix for extra richness and binding. Ham salad was mostly enjoyed as a sandwich filling, often on soft white bread or croissants. It was also popular as a dip for crackers or vegetable sticks, making it a go-to option for quick lunches or afternoon snacks. While ham salad was a popular choice for sandwiches and dips, Grandma's next dish offered a heartier and more comforting option: 17 green bean casserole.
Welcome, I'm Deronda with Foods 101, and today I'm going to show you how to make the famous French's green bean casserole. This is fast and easy to make. It's an excellent vegetable side dish for your Thanksgiving Day table that everyone is absolutely going to love.
Green bean casserole is one of those meals that reminds you that plant-based dishes can still be really delicious. All you needed were some green beans, mushrooms, onions, and shallots, and you were good to go. Every part of this homemade casserole was amazing, down to the finest detail. The flavors are creamy and savory, with a bit of crunch at the end from the fried shallots. Add a homemade mushroom cream sauce and crispy fried shallots, and you wonder why this casserole isn't all everyone is raving about. Originating in the late 80s to early 90s, when America went on a bit of a health craze, the green bean casserole reigned supreme. However, that reign was short-lived as another health craze swept the nation in the early 2000s and the green bean was gone, but it's still firmly beloved by the people who couldn't get enough of it back then. And much like green bean casserole, this next vegetarian dish warmed its way into America's hearts in the 50s and 60s. 18 pot roast.
Hey, what's up? Today, I'm gonna show you guys how to make a very good tasting pot roast. It hits just as hard as the other famous beef braises like beef stew or beef bourguignon, but it's less work and actually delivers the exact same experience.
With pot roast, what you saw was what you got, and that was a classic comfort food with roots in European cuisine. Pot roast took it all back to the basics, with its simple method of slow cooking tough cuts of beef to tender perfection, being a practical way to utilize less expensive cuts of meat. As more people migrated to America, they brought their cooking traditions with them, and pot roast simply became a staple in many American households. Pot roast was probably at its most popular in the mid-20th century, at a time when home-cooked meals were the norm. It was a dish that was both hearty and economical, simply perfect for busy families. While its popularity has declined with the rise of quicker cooking methods and prepackaged meals, it could still serve to be a comfort food of choice for you, like it is for many others. Pot roast is the heart of American culinary history and food tradition, symbolizing comfort, warmth, and family. It's a dish that evokes memories of Sunday dinners and gatherings around the table. Here's how to make your own tasty pot roast. First, season the beef with salt and pepper, then coat in flour. Heat olive oil in a large pot over medium-high heat, and brown the beef in it on all sides. Add some chopped onions and carrots to the pot, and cook until the meat is softened. If you're using red wine, use it to deglaze the pot, then add beef broth to cover the meat. Bring it all to a boil, then reduce the heat and let it simmer until the meat is tender. Add potatoes and garlic to the pot as the cooking is winding down, and remember to serve the pot roast with the flavorful gravy created from the cooking liquid. While it may not be as trendy as it used to be, pot roast continues to hold a special place in the hearts of many, in much the same way the next meal does too. 19 chili cheese dogs.
A half pork, half beef sausage, grilled until perfectly charred and brown, dressed with tangy yellow mustard and crunchy white onions. But it's the final touch, smothering the whole thing in homemade chili, cooked down for hours to hone the sweet and smoky flavor.
What's not to love about these packets of spicy goodness? These baked treats were the toast of potlucks and picnics back in the day. These scrumptious treats were baked to perfection and packed with a savory, salty, and super cheesy that would get mouths drooling and eyes watering. They were a filling treat, the perfect dish for the whole family to bond over on holidays or out in the outdoors. Plus, they were pretty easy to make. Here's how you do that. Start by preheating your oven to 350 degrees, putting your hot dogs in a bun, and then dropping them in a baking dish. Then evenly top the hot dogs with chili and shredded cheddar cheese. Then finally bake the whole thing for about 25 minutes until the cheese is melted and heated through. Top it off with any toppings of your choice and it's ready to dig into. Unfortunately, chili cheese dogs do not save well, so you probably should only cook what you need. They are pretty quick and easy, so you can bake more in no time if you need some extra portions. Talking about extra portions, this next treat will have you begging for more. 20 Southern Fried Chicken Biscuits.
Oh boy, today I have this hot honey fried chicken biscuit recipe.
You can't go wrong with a Southern Fried Chicken recipe and Southern Fried Chicken Biscuits. This was food for the soul. These tasty snacks excited the taste buds of the young and old back in its heyday. These treats were the perfect party starters. It didn't matter what it was at a potluck or a wedding. Everyone went wild when you brought these crunchy bad boys out. The recipe is basically designed for large portions, and it's easy to make, so why not try it? It's just a few steps. Start by boiling tea, and then dissolve some sugar and salt in it. Add bay leaves, peppercorns, more tea, lemons, garlic, and parsley into the mix. Then cool, strain, submerge chicken for about 12 hours in the fridge. While you're setting that aside, grate some frozen butter and coat it in flour. Mix in some flour, sugar, baking powder, salt, add butter, and then put buttermilk into it. Scoop the whole thing to a pan and let it bake for about 25 minutes, and then brush those baked beauties with butter once they're out of the oven. Then for the next stage, mix your dredge ingredients together till they properly combine. Add some milk to it and turn it to pancake batter, then let it rest for about 10 minutes. Now it's time to rinse the brined chicken, coat it in dredge, and then fry it till it's golden brown, and it's ready to eat. You can garnish it and serve with pickles if you feel like it. Next treat on the list takes us all the way up to the East Coast. 21 grinders.
Hey everyone, today I'm going to show you how to make the viral TikTok grinder sandwich.
We can't really decide on the origin of grinders, but we know one thing for sure. They're a New England staple, though they also get a lot of love from Connecticut and Rhode Island too. Some people say grinders got their name from the tough Italian bread used to make the sandwich, which you would have to grind your teeth through, but there's no way. Grinders subs, with their piles of fixings, were way harder to dig into than your typical fare of ham and cheese on white bread. Enough talk about the origins of grinders. Let's get down to how people made them. First, you made the salad. You'd start this by soaking onions in water to remove its bitterness, and then toss some sliced iceberg lettuce with a creamy dressing of mayonnaise, red wine vinegar, oregano, crushed red pepper, minced garlic, and salt and pepper to taste. To end off this stage, add in some pepperoni and sliced red onions. Then to make the sandwich itself, start with a sliced Italian sandwich loaf and add some Calabrian chili paste to both sides. Next, layer salami, spicy pepperoni, and prosciutto on the top half, and the Colby Jack and Havarti cheeses on the other half. Let it bake for 5 minutes or until the meats are warm and the cheese is melty. Then finally add the salad with the slices of tomato, more onion and Parmesan. Slice it up and enjoy your life. Our next dish brought a bit of tenderness that the food of that era just didn't have. 22 So Tender Swiss Steak.
Swiss steak, when done right, is one of the most delicious comfort foods out there, making it perfect to serve up to family and friends.
This meaty dish was so soft it was falling off the bone, so savory it melted in your mouth with every bite. This particular dish was a huge favorite in a lot of households back in the good old days. It was a dish everyone enjoyed eating, and the mums loved to make. This tasty, hearty meal brought a gourmet flair to homemade meals. And that was why it was so beloved at potlucks and parties. Here's how you make it. Start by preheating your oven and then combining flour, salt, and pepper in a shallow dish. On a different plate, pound steak with a mallet to tenderize it. When that's done, start to add your meat into the flour mixture, a few pieces at a time till each piece is thoroughly coated. In an oven, brown your steak in oil on both sides. Arrange onion slices between layers of meat and then add some water and Worcestershire sauce to it. Then bake it covered for about 2.5 hours till the meat is very tender. Next, remove the meat to a serving platter. Next, it's to make the gravy. In a small bowl, combine flour, salt, pepper, and broth, till it combines, then stir into the pan juices. Bring the whole thing to a boil over medium heat. Let it cook and then stir it for about 2 minutes till it thickens. Now, it's done. You could either serve your Swiss steak with noodles or mashed potatoes. For our next treat, we'll be looking at another Tex-Mex classic, 23 Mexican lasagna.
Not sure this is a thing for anybody other than us, but we're making Mexican lasagna.
Mexican lasagna is one of those dishes that is simply impossible to hate. It's baked perfection, carefully curated with a mix of flavors to appeal straight to your soul. But when you make a dish at the crossroads of Italian and Mexican cuisine, you'd be wrong to expect anything less than magic. Here's how you go about whipping it up. In a large skillet over medium-high heat, brown some ground beef. Stir in taco seasoning and tomatoes. Then line a baking dish with tortillas. Scoop your beef mixture into the dish. Then top with the rest of your tortillas. Spread salsa over the tortillas and sprinkle some cheese on top of it. When that's done, bake it at 350 degrees Fahrenheit for about half an hour till the cheese is melted and bubbly. And then it's done. All that's left to do is serve with shredded lettuce, fresh sliced tomatoes, olives, and sour cream. Our next classic recipe might not have been homemade, but it's still dear to many hearts. 24 Lunchables.
Lunchables, all-star burgers, and hot dogs. Make fun of lunch.
Right from when it first launched in 1988 by Oscar Mayer, Lunchables changed the landscape for how both kids and adults saw lunchtime. These prepackaged meals were everything you'd need for a healthy lunchtime. A mix of crackers, deli meats, cheeses, and sometimes even a small treat, like candy or a drink. They were marketed to children, designed to be convenient and fun for them, allowing them to build their own mini sandwiches during lunchtime. Lunchables were as perfect a response as it got to the growing need for easy-to-make treats that the busy parents of those times could quickly whip up and put in their kids' lunchboxes. The golden combination of convenience and customizability made them an instant hit, especially among school kids. Following up with the initial success, Lunchables expanded its offerings to include pizza kits, nachos, and other snackable options. But it was the original cracker, cheese, and meat combination that dominated the late 80s. 25 porcupine meatballs.
Porcupine meatballs, a budget recipe that's been around since or before the Great Depression.
Porcupine meatballs was a dish of necessity, but that didn't mean it came up short in terms of taste either. The dish came about during the Great Depression era as a way to help stretch ground beef, which was in short supply at the time, into more meals. Adding rice bulked up the beef, yielding more meatballs for less money. The recipe eventually stuck, and eventually people started making these rice-filled meatballs because they wanted to and not because they needed to. This old-school comfort classic might have fallen out of favor in the 80s, but it seems like it's about to make a comeback. Here's how you make it. Chop up a yellow onion, mince some garlic cloves, and chop up some fresh parsley leaves. Add some ground beef, some long-grain white rice, a dash of kosher salt, and a pinch of black pepper. Add just a bit of water to the mixture so it's just wet enough for the whole thing to hold together. Form the mixture into meatballs and then put them in a baking dish. Pour some tomato sauce and Worcestershire sauce over the meatballs and then sprinkle the top of it with some more kosher salt and black pepper. And then you're done. Bake it for about 35 minutes. And when that's done, uncover it and keep baking for about 20 minutes till the meatballs are lightly browned. Then garnish it with parsley leaves. The resulting meatballs are tender, flavorful, and perfect for serving on top of mashed potatoes, noodles, or honestly, more rice. They're comforting and filling and make the perfect weeknight dinner, much like this next treat. 26 bacon cheddar potato skins.
Hello friends and welcome back to my channel. Today we'll be making potato skins for the Super Bowl.
It might be a pretty unusual dish, but that was only because it was unusually good. This treat came about as a way to use all the parts of a potato. A genius idea in hindsight. This delicacy in particular might just be good enough to make the skin the favorite part of the potato when you try it out. If you doubt that, you probably should check out the recipe. Start by pre-baking some potatoes, leaving them to cool, slicing them in half lengthwise, and then scooping out the pulp and setting it aside. When that's done, place the potato skins on a greased baking sheet. Next, mix some cooking oil with Parmesan cheese, salt, pepper, garlic powder, and paprika in a medium-sized bowl and brush it over both sides of the skin. Next, it's time to bake the brushed potato skins until they crisp, cooking them for about 7 minutes on each side. Then, sprinkle the bacon and cheddar cheese inside the skins and bake them again, concave side up until the cheese melts. only about 2 minutes longer. Top the potato skins with sour cream and onions and serve immediately. Now it's time to spice things up. Add some crushed red pepper or cayenne pepper to the mixture you prepare the oil. And there it is. Your potato skins are ready to eat. The fun thing about this recipe is, you don't have to be strict with it. You can tweak it and experiment to match your tastes. These potato skins are a tested and trusted appetizer or side for any occasion, be it a BBQ, holiday dinner, or as part of an everyday family meal. 27. Pimento cheese sandwich. You can't really talk about classic American dishes without talking about pimento cheese sandwich. Probably just hearing about this classic treat was enough for you to start to reminisce on the good old days if you were around during those times. This sandwich was probably one of the most popular of the cheese sandwiches of the time, which themselves became the favorites they did in the early 20th century as a result of the growing prominence of cheese as an important ingredient in the American household. The shocking thing is, it's pretty easy to make. The recipe is just a mix of mayonnaise, warm milk, shredded cheddar, and pimento peppers spread over a fresh slice of bread. While it is true that the tasty treat originally came from the north, the pimento sandwich we know and love today was a southern staple, mostly due to the abundance of pimento peppers in the region. With time, the sandwich fell out of popularity due to shifting tastes and the introduction of more convenient dining options, but the pimento cheese sandwich still gets a lot of love in households even today. The secret to the pimento cheese sandwich and its popularity is all in the sauce. Beyond just being a sandwich spread, it could be used as a side dish or to garnish burgers in a barbecue, just to name a couple. 28. Croque Madame.
Today, we're going to talk about one of the greatest sandwiches of all time. The croque madame.
It's only fitting that this dish is French because the recipe for it was definitely made with love. This bistro classic is one of those dishes that is almost too good to be true, and the recipe might be a little high effort, but it absolutely is worth the delicacy you get in the end. The croque madame elevates the humble ham and cheese sandwich to godlike status. Little wonder it was an obsession for lovers of homemade dishes and gourmands alike. Here's how you make it. Start by melting butter in a small saucepan over medium heat to make the bechamel. Add some flour to make a roux, and let it cook for a minute or two while you're stirring it. Then slowly whisk in some milk until the whole thing smoothens, then allow to cook for a few minutes till it thickens. Then season with salt and pepper and set it aside. Next step is to make the sandwich, which you'll do by layering the slices of ham and cheese on slices of buttered bread. Then butter the outside of the bread and toast it in a hot pan till it gets golden brown. Spoon over the bechamel sauce and add a little extra grated cheese on top of the sandwich before putting it back in the oven and letting it broil for 5 minutes more till it's golden brown and bubbling. While you're doing that, fry eggs in a hot pan, and once the sandwiches are ready, top it with the eggs and serve. Croque Madame was the peak of homemade pancakes, a spot it shared with our next dish. 29. Stuffed potato pancakes. This hearty dish was a homemade staple back in the 70s and 80s, perfect for the busy lifestyles people were leading back then. It was more than just a comfort food classic for those times. It brought a classy flair to the dinner tables and potlucks it would make regular appearances at. It's an incredibly flavorful dish. While making it might take more than a few steps, if you're a fan of warm, nutritious dishes, you definitely should try it out. Start by mixing together potatoes, flour, baking powder, eggs, salt, and pepper in a bowl. In another bowl, mix ground beef, onion, garlic salt, some more eggs, and breadcrumbs till it all properly combines. Then drop tablespoons of the potato mixture in a hot skillet and flatten them out in pancakes. Then place about 2 teaspoons of beef mixture on top of each one, spreading the filling out almost to the edges of each pancake. Drop another rounded tablespoon of potato mixture on top and spread it out to completely cover beef. Fry each pancake for about 5 minutes until the bottom of each pancake is golden brown, and then flip and fry the other side for about another minute until it's also golden. Just take it out, let it cool, and it's ready to serve. Enjoy! If you want your dishes with less meat though, you might want to take a look at our next dish. 30. Baked bean sandwich.
Street today from the up-to-date sandwich book of 1909, we're going to be making the Boston baked bean sandwich.
Sometimes it's the simpler treats that go all the way. Baked bean sandwiches were the perfect example of that. This treat is just a treat of 2 ingredients, but the results of what you get from that goes far beyond the distance. Especially if you're a fan of vegetarian food, this treat is just as filling and nutritious as any meaty dish. So here's how you make it. Put some bacon in a frying pan over medium heat. Fry the bacon till it's crispy and all the fat is fully extracted. Then pour the beans into the pan. Let it simmer for about 5 minutes till the juice reduces down, and the beans are thickened. Now you can remove them from the pan and set it aside. Next step is making the sandwich. Spread one side of each of the slices of bread with butter, then flip 3 of them so the buttered side is down, and then sprinkle each of them with cheddar. Then top each slice with beans, and then add a few dashes of Worcestershire sauce to the mix if you don't mind that. Then top the whole thing off with more cheddar. Then add another slice of bread with the buttered side up to cover the dish. Next is the baking part. Put the bean sandwich in a pan over medium heat, then fry for a few minutes till both sides are golden and the cheese is starting to ooze out. Then it's ready to enjoy. Next up, we'll be looking at another classic sandwich, 31 Cuban sandwich.
I'm not Cuban. In fact, I've never even been to Cuba, but this Cuban sandwich is tremendous.
This masterpiece of Hispanic cuisine might have had Cuban roots, but the origins of the treat are as American as apple pie. The Cuban sandwich is an American spin on the Cuban mixto, Spanish for mixed sandwich, a delicacy that got its name from the complex mix of meats and cheeses that are used to make it. It made its way to the U.S. by the way of Cuban immigrant workers in the 50s and 60s. It was just a matter of time till you got the Cuban sandwich after that. To make it, start by getting yourself some Cuban bread. You could use French bread or Italian bread as a substitute. Cut up the Cuban bread and then butter it up. Then layer that with some yellow mustard, half the amount of butter. Then get yourself some roast pork and the same weight of sliced ham, and then layer that on the bread with a generous serving of Swiss cheese and pickles. Then cover that up with another slice of bread. For the final step, butter the rest of the sides of the sandwich and then grill the Cuban sandwich for about 5 minutes on each side, pressing it down with a skillet or spatula till the bread is golden brown and crispy. We'll be looking as a classic dish with foreign roots for our next treat, 32 Denver omelet.
We're going to celebrate the United States with a classic, the Denver omelet.
There's a reason the Denver omelet was so beloved as a regional staple back in the day. It was a simple, filling dish that tasted amazing, perfect for a quick breakfast for working families. The origins of the dish are unclear, but it probably came about in the 19th century from Chinese railroad cooks as a way to make transportable egg foo young. Eventually, the sandwiches became breadless, and then the Denver sandwich slowly became the Denver omelet. One way to view the sandwich is as an alternative to the French omelet, only with a firmer texture and an extra caramelized flavor. Here's how you make it. Start by beating some eggs in a small bowl just until they combine. Then melt some butter over a pan and add in some ham, onion, bell pepper, and some seasonings according to your preference. Cook the whole thing for about 5 minutes till the onions soften and start to caramelize. Then reduce the heat and pour in eggs. Mix the whole thing with a spatula to properly spread around the ingredients. Run the spatula along the edges of the omelet and sprinkle some cheddar cheese and cayenne pepper over it. Finally, cook the whole thing for about 5 minutes till the top of the omelet is still wet but not runny. Then it's ready to eat. Just use a spatula to fold the omelet in half. Put it on a plate and enjoy with a side of some salad or toasted bread. 33 Cheeseburger French fry casserole.
Hey y'all, it's Chris and Tammy with Collard Valley Cooks, and today we're making a cheeseburger and French fry casserole.
Cheeseburger French fry casserole was a proper Midwestern classic. Like a lot of casseroles we now know and love, it came to popularity during the golden age of casseroles in the 50s. It was just the dish the people back then needed, an even more convenient way to whip up their favorite indulgence. It's really no surprise that it quickly became a regional sensation. To make it, start by cooking beef in a skillet till it's no longer pink. Then drain the fat from it and put the meat in a baking dish. In a small mixing bowl, combine relish, ketchup, mustard, garlic, and cream of mushroom soup. Then sprinkle shredded cheese on top of the mixture. Finally, cover the top of the casserole with French fries and let it all bake in an oven for about 40 minutes. Take it out from the oven and it's ready to serve. Next up, we'll be looking at another indulgence from the good old days, 34 crab cake sandwich.
And today it's a crab cake sandwich. I've been waiting for this for quite some time. We're gonna make a remoulade and a microgreen salad. Stick around, I'll show you how.
This dish was a dream come true for seafood lovers back in the day. One of the most convenient seafood dishes at the time, made even easier to take for when you're on the go. Say less. This sandwich is unbelievably delicious. Making it might be a bit of a chore, but what you get at the end makes it all totally worth it. Now let's get to making it. After you've done your prep, cook some chopped peppers, shallots, and garlic in a skillet for about 6 minutes. When they're done, let them cool in the refrigerator. Next, add crab, mayo, eggs, panko, lemon juice, Leah and Perrins, Tabasco, mustard, Old Bay, and cracked pepper to the chilled pepper mixture and mix it all thoroughly. Form the crab cake mixture into patties and then saute them in olive oil, browning them on both sides for about 3 minutes before baking them in the oven for about 10 minutes. While you're doing that, in the meantime, add all ingredients for your aioli in a bowl and mix properly. Then add the crab cake patties to an onion or brioche roll with lettuce, tomato, onion, and the aioli. Then it's ready to eat. You're meant to gobble up the moment it's done cooking. But if you're not ready to eat it straight away, the great thing about the sandwich is you can leave it in the fridge for 4 days. Next on the list, we'll be looking at another treat that both manages to keep well and keep its relevance over the years. 35 fluffed fruit salad.
Hey friends, it's Sean with iwashyoudry.com, and today we are going to be making this incredible orange fluff salad.
This easy fruit salad was not just incredibly refreshing, all-natural sweetness. It was something you could make from very basic ingredients, and it couldn't be more simple to make. In little over 10 minutes, you're done with making the whole thing from scratch. Start cutting up some strawberries, blueberries, kiwi, and pineapples, draining them, and then putting them together in a large bowl. Add some fresh lemon juice, instant vanilla pudding mix, pecans, and mini marshmallows to the fruit mix, and then give the bowl a good stir till all the ingredients are combined and covered with the pudding mix. Fold your fruit salad mixture in some whipped topping, and of course, chill the fresh fruit fluff for at least an hour before serving. Our next dish is a contender for old-time comfort food greatness. 36 cabbage rolls.
Now that is what I call comfort food. Cabbage rolls are wildly popular throughout the Middle East and Eastern Europe. Each country makes them slightly different, and although I haven't tried every recipe, I'd say the Egyptian one is one of the best.
Cabbage
and if you've got
rolls
some
are another one of those treats we can't really pin down the origins of, but what we do know is that it probably can be pinned to some 2,000 years ago in ancient Jewish history, and after millennia making its way through the Middle East into Europe. It came into America when people from Eastern Europe and Scandinavians came into the country as immigrants in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. Over time, these rolls made their way into cookbooks across the country and were loved by many Americans because of the comfort they brought to families. Sadly, it's no longer the comfort food staple it once was these days, but it's something we'd highly recommend if you're looking for a meaty, hearty dish that's still healthy as a plus side. And if you want to make it, here's how you do it. Mix ground beef, rice, onion, salt, and pepper. Shape that mixture into large meatball-sized portions that you'll roll in cabbage leaves. Make sure that you tuck in the sides as you roll. Place your roll in a covered pan. Make a stock with tomatoes, a tablespoon of sweet paprika, and vegetables, and pour it over the rolls. Now, let everything bake in a medium heat oven for about an hour and a half before stirring in sour cream after cooking. You could also serve the sour cream on the side, but make sure you don't cook it, else it'll just curdle. And here's a free tip. Cabbage rolls taste better if made the night before and reheated before serving. Stuffed cabbage rolls were never incredibly popular to begin with, so when tastes shifted towards less complex presentations, it couldn't stand the tide, an all too familiar story that would also be the fate of this next treat. 37 fried bologna sandwiches.
Hello everybody, I hope you're having a great day. Well, I'm making a fried bologna sandwich.
A fried bologna sandwich seems like an unusual idea, right from the name. But sometimes it's the unconventional dishes that are the hidden gems. Just looking at the fact that it's inspired by Italian cuisine should be enough to tell you it's going to be great. Just how great. You're going to have to make it to find out. Thankfully, doing that is super easy. Start cutting up some bologna and putting it in hot oil, browning both sides. Top it with some cheese while the second side is browning. Just spread mustard on both sides of the bread. Add bologna between slices, and it's ready to dig into. Fried bologna sandwiches are pure goodness. Just pure flavor and richness without going over the top. Just like fried bologna sandwiches, our next treat basically defined simplicity. 38 sardine sandwiches.
And we create a super delicious recipe. We're talking a sardine salad sandwich.
Our next dish might not have the fanciest recipe or be the tastiest treat, but there's a reason Grandma loved it. It was a very simple dish to make. It kept very well and packed a punch of nutrient. A few bites of a sardine sandwich with a warm cup is really all you need to start your day. To whip up this simple staple, start by hard-boiling eggs, peeling, and letting them sit in a bowl. Toast your bread in a toaster on both sides, then mash those eggs. Add the sardines into the mashed eggs and mash that too. Then add chopped onions, tomato, mayonnaise, mustard, and pepper seasoning cube and mix everything together. Spread mayonnaise on top of one slice of bread and put some lettuce on it, then scoop some of the sardine mixture on the lettuce on the bread and cover with another lettuce. Spread mayonnaise on another slice of bread and cover the sandwich. Then just cut up the sandwich and enjoy. The next treat on our list was another trusty classic. 39 cheesy ham and broccoli casserole.
Hi, welcome to my kitchen.
Today I'm going to be making a ham and broccoli cheesy casserole.
You just know a dish is going when it was brought to the U.S. by immigrants. You know it's going to be amazing when it's a Pennsylvania Dutch staple. This dish just happens to be both. This recipe might be centuries old, but thankfully good food is timeless. The noodles at the core of the dish is a tasteful nod to the classic recipe's German heritage. Here's how you go about making it. Cook some noodles for a few minutes, then drain it and set it aside. Cook some broccoli until it is tender and crisp. Whether it is fresh or frozen isn't really important. Put the broccoli in a baking dish. Then saute some onions in butter till it's tender. Slowly add in flour and pepper to the mix, and then gradually stir some milk till the mixture thickens. Mix in some ham, noodles, and parsley, then pour the cheesy mixture over the broccoli. For the final touch, top it with breadcrumbs, and let the casserole bake at 350 degrees for about 40 minutes. 40 broiled Parmesan and Swiss tomatoes.
New, healthy, and easy recipes that are very quick to make. So join me as we learn a recipe together, a Mediterranean side dish, baked Parmesan tomatoes.
For our last dish, we'll be looking at probably one of the best dishes mid-20th century cuisine had to offer. It was a regional favorite, but sadly it didn't take off much further than that. If you're curious about just what makes this dish such a big deal, why don't you make it so you can find out? Start cutting up some tomatoes, putting them in an ungreased baking pan and dotting it with a dash of butter. Next, broil the dish for about 4 to 6 minutes till the butter melts. While that's going on, put the rest of your butter and onions in a bowl. Microwave the whole thing for about 3 minutes till the onions are tender. Finally, you can stir in some breadcrumbs, Parmesan cheese, salt and garlic powder for seasoning, and spoon on top of your tomatoes. Then you can sprinkle Swiss cheese on the baking dish and let it broil for about a minute or two till the cheese is melted.